There's a subtle kind of weight that we all carry, a quiet, nearly invisible burden that presses down not on the shoulders, but on the soul. It's not always obvious. It doesn't announce itself with sharp pain or dramatic displays. Instead, it weaves itself into everyday moments. A strained smile, a swallowed frustration, a lingering thought that echoes long after a conversation ends. This weight is the accumulation of expectations, some placed upon us by others, but many more silently accepted by ourselves. Be kind, be agreeable, be successful, be strong even when you feel like breaking. We wear these expectations like second skins, barely noticing their presence until something stirs within us. An ache, a question, a yearning for something more. David had felt this ache for years, though he didn't always have words for it. On the surface, his life looked fine, normal, even pleasant. He had a good job, the kind that offered just enough stability to quiet doubts. He had friends who cared for him in the way people do when they're all just trying to keep their own heads above water. He had hobbies, routines, the occasional weekend getaway. But beneath all that, David carried a sense of restlessness, like he was living life slightly out of sync with himself. Sometimes, in the quiet of the night or the hush of an early morning, he would feel it most strongly, that hollow throb of disconnection, not from others necessarily, but from something deeper, a part of himself that had been neglected in the pursuit of being who he thought he was supposed to be. It was a part of him that didn't care for achievements or appearances, but for meaning, for peace, for authenticity. He had always been sensitive, not in the fragile sense, but in the way that made him hyper-aware of others' moods, words, and energies. A passing remark could stay with him for days. An unresolved disagreement could gnaw at his mind like a slow-burning flame. Though he rarely showed it, David felt deeply. He felt everything, and it exhausted him. Still, like so many others, he kept moving. Wake up, get dressed, go to work, smile, nod, meet expectations, repeat. He had become so good at functioning that even those closest to him had no idea how much he questioned the point of it all, how often he wondered whether life was meant to feel like a constant performance, one in which the applause never truly satisfied. Then, one afternoon, something shifted. It started simply. A video, stumbled upon during a routine scroll through social media, played quietly in the background while he mindlessly ate lunch. He almost skipped it, but something about the tone of the narrator's voice caught his attention. It was calm, sure, and unlike the usual motivational content that promised hustle and conquest. This voice spoke of stillness, of emotional freedom, of reclaiming one's peace not by fixing the world, but by changing how we relate to it. You will not be punished for your anger. You will be punished by your anger, the voice said. David paused mid-bite. He replayed the sentence in his head. Punished by your anger. The words hit him with a quiet force, not in a dramatic, life-changing way, but like a gentle knock on a long-closed door deep within his consciousness. Could it really be that simple? Could his suffering, the tension in his chest, the weariness in his bones, the endless internal dialogue, be the result of his own attachments, his own unexamined patterns of reaction? In that moment, something softened inside him. A kind of spaciousness opened up, offering a new perspective. Perhaps he didn't need to carry every slight, every expectation, every pressure as if it were his burden alone. Perhaps peace wasn't something to be earned after a lifetime of striving, but something to be found by letting go, right here, right now. That night, David sat in silence for the first time in a long while. No music, no television, no distractions. Just the quiet hum of the world around him and the louder hum of the world within. He didn't know what he was looking for, but he sensed that whatever it was, it wouldn't be found outside of himself. And so began a journey not one marked by grand gestures or external transformation, but by subtle shifts in awareness. A journey toward emotional freedom, toward detachment, toward stillness. This is the story of how one man slowly unraveled the tangled cords of expectation, self-doubt, and societal programming to rediscover the sacred space within himself. A space untouched by chaos. A space where peace could finally take root. Not just for David, but for anyone willing to pause, breathe, and ask, what am I really carrying? And is it mine to hold? Possibility, the kind that unfolds gently when you allow life to happen as it should. It's in this space of stillness that many profound realizations can arise, and it is where we can begin to detach from the patterns that have kept us bound. In a small town where the seasons painted the landscape in vibrant hues lived a man named David. On the surface, he seemed like everyone else. He held a steady job, had a close-knit group of friends, and enjoyed the occasional weekend adventure. Yet, beneath the facade, David felt like he was constantly on a tightrope, teetering between the pressures of life and the weight of expectation. Have you ever felt like the world has you on a leash? David had. Every rude comment from a coworker, every silent treatment from a friend, and every unexpected setback pulled at him like invisible strings, anchoring him to a sense of unease. What if I could break free from this? He often mused, yet the thought of detachment and letting go seemed terrifying. One afternoon, while scrolling through his social media feed, David stumbled upon a video that caught his attention. The narrator spoke of emotional freedom and the idea that most of us live as puppets, reacting to things that don't deserve our energy. He felt an inexplicable pull as the voice resonated deeply within him. You will not be punished for your anger. You will be punished by your anger. In that moment, everything clicked into place. David realized that every time he reacted, whether it was an argument with a loved one, a critical remark from a colleague, or even the daily pressures of life, he was handing over his peace to someone else. The video promised a shift in perspective, a chance to reclaim control over his life, not by controlling events, but by controlling how he chose to respond to them. Understanding the cost of caring. David embarked on a journey of introspection, reflecting on his life, and the emotional costs associated with caring too much. There comes a point when you're so tired, not physically, but emotionally. And David was there. Tired of overthinking, tired of defending himself, and even more exhausted by the endless weight of expectation placed on him by himself and others. He began to ask himself, why do I let other people's opinions affect me so much? Does this energy I'm wasting even deserve my focus? In this quest for understanding, David stumbled upon a crucial realization. No one tells you you're allowed to let go of the burdens not meant for you. He recalled the wise teachings of Buddhism, specifically the lesson that peace comes not from having nothing to care about, but from caring about the right things. It struck him that he was often standing in a storm, clutching onto every hurtful word, every perceived slight, like hooks pulling at him, bending his spirit. He remembered the old saying that the root of suffering is attachment, realizing that he was attached, not only to people and their opinions, but to outcomes. The more fixed he was on being liked, accepted, or understood, the more profound his suffering became. Determined to break away from this cycle, he began to practice mindfulness. Whenever someone made a rude comment, or when expectations felt too heavy, he would pause and ask himself, is this truly mine to carry? The illusion of control. Through these practices, David came to understand the illusion of control, a concept grappling with many in today's world. He once believed that if he could tightly manage every aspect of his life, from work to relationships, he would be safe from pain. Yet, the harder he tried to control everything, the more exhausted he felt. Life had its own flow, and David realized that by resisting that flow, he only invited more suffering. He imagined himself standing by a river, watching leaves float along the current. Rather than chaining the leaves to himself, he learned to observe them peacefully as they passed. He understood that he had to let go of trying to manage everything, the conversations, the perceptions, and even the reactions of others. This wasn't about giving up. It was about acceptance, accepting that he couldn't dictate how life unfolded. One day, while commuting to work, David felt a wave of anxiety wash over him. Instead of trying to push it down or assigning blame, I shouldn't feel this way. He paused, closed his eyes, and took a deep breath. This too shall pass, he whispered. With each exhale, he felt a little lighter, a little freer. Societal programming and the matrix of approval. As David delved deeper into his journey, he began to examine how society had programmed him to care about irrelevant things. He recognized that he had been conditioned to seek approval from others, to measure his worth through likes, comments, or even the success standards laid out for him. With each realization, he felt a flicker of anger, not at others, but at the system that had quietly and insidiously influenced his self-perception. He recalled moments of chasing after what he thought he should be. The polished images on social media that painted a facade of a perfect life had caused him endless worry and comparisons. He asked himself, is this mine? Or has it been installed in me by the world? This questioning became pivotal, shedding light on how he had worked hard to fit into molds that never truly resonated with him. With newfound clarity, he started writing in his journal. Each entry was an exploration. What am I chasing that I never questioned? Each observation empowered David to disentangle his worth from external validation. He began to learn the art of saying no, not as an act of defiance, but as a profound alignment with his true self. Reclaiming his narrative brought him freedom, and in this freedom lay the foundation for discernment. He was no longer the puppet reacting to every pull or prod from the outside world. The art of detachment. David learned that detachment didn't mean he had to become cold or indifferent. Detachment became a practice of holding everything lightly. He'd heard before, you must fight for what you love, but one day in meditation, he understood that sometimes holding on too tightly hurt more than it helped. He reflected on relationships that were draining, plans that refused to materialize, and fears that kept replaying. The more he gripped tightly, the heavier everything felt. He began shifting his language, replacing phrases like, I need this to happen, with, I prefer this, but I will be okay either way. That one alteration softened the rigidity within him, reminding him that his peace wasn't contingent upon specific outcomes. He embraced the metaphor of watching thoughts like leaves floating down a river. As he sat in contemplation, he envisioned each emotion, both pleasant and painful, drifting past him. No longer did he feel compelled to dive in or chase after every thought. He found comfort in observing rather than engaging, creating space for serenity to take root. The serenity of stillness. As weeks passed, David finally grasped what it meant to stop caring, not from apathy, but from profound wisdom. A newfound stillness emerged within him, allowing clarity to reign over confusion. Instead of remaining stirred by the chaos of life, he found pleasure in simplicity, in brushing his teeth mindfully, savoring his morning tea, and appreciating the beauty around him. In this quietude, he discovered that peace does not emerge from fixing every issue. It comes from ceasing to stir the waters. It was no longer about needing validation or defending his ego. The once chaotic storm swirling inside him calmed into a gentle breeze, and within that serenity, he could hear the soft whispers of his soul. David learned to let others think what they wish, and life to unfold as it should. He held that space of detachment tenderly, still engaged, yet no longer chained by negativity. When I stopped caring about controlling the world, I discovered control over myself, he reflected. The journey to inner freedom. As the seasons changed, David felt his life transform. No longer did he carry around invisible weights or bend to meet external expectations. He had cultivated resilience, a genuine sense of peace that was unshakable. The skepticism and anxiety weren't gone. They were tempered by clarity and understanding. His relationships matured as well. Friends noticed a shift, commenting on his newfound depth and calm. He became a source of support, encouraging others to cultivate their own peace. You have to build your inner strength, he would say with a serene smile. David often shared stories of his journey, his struggles, and his victories. Rather than short-circuiting in the chaos, he inspired those around him to reflect inwardly. Don't let the world define you. You have the power to redefine your own narrative. In those moments of connection, David realized that emotional freedom wasn't just his journey anymore. It became a collective awakening. As he walked alongside others, each step synchronized in understanding, he knew he needed to continue shifting his focus inward, embracing growth, and honoring the stillness within. The bonus lesson, embracing the now. In moments of quiet reflection, David effortlessly celebrated small victories. He recognized that life, this inexplicable journey, unfolded beautifully when he tapped into his essence. Each day became another opportunity to practice acceptance and gratitude. As he concluded his reflections one evening, David breathed deeply under the starlit sky, a canvas of possibilities stretching infinitely above him. He set his intentions for the days ahead, to remain untouchable by chaos, to distill his focus on his inner peace, and to inspire others to join him on this liberating journey. Because the truth was evident, true strength lies not in controlling life, but in relinquishing the need to intervene. Ultimately, peace found at the intersection of freedom and acceptance becomes a gift freely shared. And in that sacred space of inner calm, David realized that nothing and no one could ever disturb the stillness that had become his sanctuary.